What if I told you the US military once sent a group of artists into Nazi territory with no real weapons, only rubber tanks, sound effects, and paint? They weren't there to fight. They were there to fool Hitler's army, and it worked. This is the true story of the Ghost Army. World War II was chaos. Bombs, bullets, firestorms from the sky. But behind the brutal combat was another war, a silent, clever game of deception. In 1944, the Allies were moving through Europe to help protect real soldiers. A strange secret unit traveled just behind enemy lines. They weren't typical fighters. They were sound engineers, painters, Broadway set designers, artists in army uniforms. This group was called the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, but history calls them something more fitting, the Ghost Army. Around 1,100 men, trained not just in tactics, but in trickery. The US military handpicked them for their creativity. Some had painted billboards in Times Square. Others had designed magazine covers or worked on radio sound stages. War had turned their art into a weapon. The Ghost Army used three main tools: inflatable tanks that looked real from the sky, massive speakers that played fake battle sounds, and scripted radio messages. These tricks convinced the enemy that entire divisions were nearby. From a distance, it all seemed authentic. Soldiers moving, tanks revving, radios buzzing. But up close, it was all a performance staged to save lives. One of their first big tests came in France, the city of Brest. German forces were expecting an attack. The Ghost Army moved in quietly. Overnight, they built a fake base. Rubber tanks, fake trucks, and loudspeakers blasting engine sounds. They even wore fake patches to pretend they were another unit. The enemy was fooled. Real American troops attacked elsewhere, safely and successfully. Deception went beyond equipment. Ghost Army members learned to mimic real troops. They studied how officers walked, what they said, how they held maps in cafes. They even staged fake convoys by looping a few vehicles through towns repeatedly. Civilians and enemy spies saw a busy camp, but it was all smoke and mirrors. The goal was to draw enemy eyes far from the real fight. This wasn't harmless play. The Ghost Army worked near enemy lines, often with no real weapons. If caught, they wouldn't be treated as prisoners of war. They would be shot as spies. One soldier remembered walking through a field with a rubber tank under his arm, hoping no sniper was watching. Their mission was a gamble, trading violence for illusion, risking death for deception. Their sound engineers had recorded actual tanks, men shouting, even bridges being crossed. These sounds were mixed like a movie soundtrack and blasted through powerful speakers. At night, the roar of engines echoed across valleys. German scouts heard the noise and reported a full division approaching. But there were no soldiers, just sound tricks and shadows, keeping the real troops safe nearby. Some Ghost Army veterans became famous after the war. Bill Blass became a fashion icon. Ellsworth Kelly became a celebrated painter. But few knew what they had done in uniform. For decades, their mission stayed secret. Families didn't know, friends didn't ask. These men had saved thousands, not with guns, but with creativity. And for 50 years, they said nothing about it all. Their story remained classified until the 1990s. Veterans finally began to speak. Letters, sketches, and recordings surfaced. Historians pieced it together. One of the most unusual units in US military history had gone unseen. In 2022, Congress finally awarded them the Congressional Gold Medal. It was a small recognition, decades late, but it finally gave the Ghost Army a place in history. The Ghost Army didn't win wars with bullets. They won battles with deception and a little Broadway flair. Their mission was strange, almost theatrical, but behind the stagecraft was a deep courage. These men proved that creativity can be a shield, that sometimes the greatest bravery comes not from taking a hill, but from fooling your enemy into climbing the wrong one. Today, their story still feels like a movie, but it was real. Thousands of lives were spared because of their illusions. In a war full of destruction, the Ghost Army stands out for something rare. They fought without killing. Their legacy reminds us that even in darkness, imagination can be a force for peace, and sometimes art really does save lives.